Testes, testes. 1, 2, 3. Anyway, so yeah, we're live now. I already pressed the button.
So that's how.
That was on. That was recorded. Welcome to the Wonton Wednesday podcast with me, your host, Stephen Augustine. I'm here today with a very good friend of mine, Joe Browne, also known as Bro or Brosepi. Sometimes
It's the Italian.
It is the Italian. Very, very. What's the word?
It's doing the genetic makeup. Less Italian than I thought.
Really?
I come from a very Italian family. And according to one of those send away DNAs, I am predominantly Scottish.
That's pretty awesome.
And then very, very, very Slavic.
I am very Polish with an Italian last name.
It's not spelled the traditional way, though. Or is it the traditional Italian spelling?
It's Americanized by my grandpa, who was not the one that emigrated here. So my great-grandpa was Augustini, Agustini.
Yeah.
And my grandpa just always pronounced it Augustine, and like a teacher in like the second or third grade said, well, you're spelling it wrong then. Put an E at the end. So there's a few random legal paperworks that he has his entire life that say Augustini. The rest of them say Augustine.
Really?
That's how the name got changed.
Very interesting. Yeah, the whole European side, on both sides, did not. The Celtic side did not change any of the spellings, hence the Browne with an E. On the other side, however, everything was changed just because it was alphabet soup coming from Italy, and then the Slavic side like completely changed because you look at 5 letters that make a very long pronounced name, and they're like, yeah, we can't do it like that, so they changed it.
It's Smith now.
Or Smythe, how do you want it? So good.
Yeah. Well,
Wonton Wednesday.
Welcome to the Wonton Wednesday podcast. After I've said your name, I guess we don't have to ask who you are.
So that's a more esoteric approach. I am Joe Browne with an E. I guess that's the Scotch, not like the single malt variety. Although we can delve into that on an.
Are you a blend?
I don't want to blend.
No, but are you a blend?
Oh, I'm a different kind.
Let's compare you to a blended Scotch. Which one are you? Dewar's or Blue Label?
So blue is not a blend. I think gold is a blend. I think blue is a single malt.
Okay.
Because even black is a single malt. But I think gold is similar to Dewar's 15, where they take multiple 15-year aged scotches and they blend them together, which I don't know. I mean, I'll drink it neat, obviously, but why take a single malt that's aged that long and then meld it with others that are aged that I don't understand the concept. I mean, it's a decent sipping whiskey, but if you have a single malt and you're going to put that much time and energy into it, why not just enjoy it as is without blending it?
I don't have the answer to that.
Perhaps we can get the answer to that, because that's a question that I'm asking.
Well, if anybody does have the answer to that, let us know.
Yeah, please.
All right. So now that I guess we got that out of the way, where are you from? Not just esoterically.
Yeah, planet Earth.
I am a vibration from the universe.
God.
My chakra is aligned with Uranus.
Yeah. God. Yeah. Way to go on that one, Steve. Well, actually, in the same vein, no pun intended, as Uranus, I'm a masshole originally, born outside of Boston, Mass. The Browne family, actually, is originally from the Northeast and moved out here to the lovely gray, barren wasteland of Western New York in early elementary school. So floated just south of Buffalo, New York for a majority of my life, and then ended up here where you and I both graduated from high school. I came here in what is now considered middle school, so 5th grade.
Yeah, that tracks about, right?
So yeah, and spent time in early adulthood when I was on active duty. Spent about a year in Texas, and then the remainder of my time in North Carolina, similar to you. And we were not tremendously far away from each other, with you being in Jacksonville and me about an hour outside of Raleigh, North Carolina.
Greensboro, Seymour Johnson Air Force Base.
Goldsboro.
Sorry.
Different color, same borough.
Yeah. I knew it was a borough.
It is a borough.
I know the name of the base. You should give me that much.
And it's all about that base.
Seeing more Johnson.
You just have to see more of it.
Which Seymour Johnson was a naval aviator, not an Air Force aviator.
Right. And talk about the DOD's intelligence. It's like
he was local, though.
He was local. He was a local from. So why not put a Navy installation, minus the fact that it's landlocked? But I mean, he could have been in Morehead City, North Carolina. I mean, he could be Seymour Johnson in Morehead City.
I mean, it is a great place to see more Johnsons.
Oh, Jesus. So yeah, that's a summary-ish of
early
of where I'm from, and
life.
I've been back here, since age 22. So about 15 years, almost 16 years now that I've been back, and have been in the home that we were doing this podcast in for almost 6 years, and it's one of those things, as many of your listeners may agree, I don't ever want to move again. Bouncing between different places, different installations, college, all that stuff. Like, I don't really want to pack up all my stuff and have to move it again. So, yeah.
I feel you there.
Yeah, I get that.
So then, let's start with, how should we say this easily? Your fitness journey. Where did it begin?
My journey, my truth, right? So, obviously, I've mentioned being a veteran, and if you would imagine actually being completely unhealthy on active duty, that's actually a thing. If you see soldiers, airmen, Marines who are way outside the parameters of what you would call the military expectations, that was actually me at one point. There was like a year and a half of me just being tremendously unhealthy, but
it's also incredibly common.
I mean, you're working 14, 16-hour shifts, and when you're not on shift, and all you want to do is sleep, like you go home, you eat, especially chow at the chow halls, man. Like, you have access to whatever you want, and you just eat, and then you don't do any PT because you're exhausted, and you fall asleep, you wake up, you have another massive quantity of food that the DOD issues to you, and you just rinse and repeat.
And that rinse is usually full of calories too.
Oh, 100%. You get off shift, and all you want to do besides eat is maybe drink. And yeah, we definitely dabbled in that life too.
Drink beers after work. The
shower.
chow hall food
Oh, yeah.
Comes with complimentary Coca-Cola or Powerade, dealer's choice.
Well, both just saturated in sugars.
Oh, yeah, it's liquid sugar.
Love it. So the fitness journey, minus that like year and a half of me being tremendously unhealthy, I was a 3-sport athlete growing up, all the way even from upper elementary. I was probably more of a 5-sport athlete at that point because I was still playing soccer and little league, but primarily I was a hockey player with a love and a decent talent at football, and the same with lacrosse, specifically from middle school through high school. And our school, as you well know, did not have a lacrosse team, so I had to travel about 40 minutes north to find a travel team, and I played on that team for, I want to say 5 seasons, maybe 6, up until senior year. I didn't play that year. I was working, and you and I had both enlisted at that point, and
Yep.
we were getting ready to depart, and travel lacrosse was just one of those things. Like, it was just not something I was ready, willing, and able to do at that point. I wanted to make some money before I left and see everyone, and do the summer experience, if you will, before shipping out. So that was that summer leading up. So, but yeah, multiple sports in middle and into high school. I dropped the baseball, I dropped the soccer, and focused primarily on hockey. I was relatively well recruited when I was in high school, to end up.
So yeah,
Both times.
well, we're back now. And by both times, he means that we tried to record this before, and I forgot to put the micro SD card in because I'm a genius.
Gotta love it.
Smartest man alive. So we were talking about 3-sport athlete.
Yes, indeed. Where did we leave off?
Primarily hockey.
Yeah,
you were
primarily
heavily recruited, and then you decided to.
Well, so our junior year, in the fall, good year, by the way, good year athletically. I was a starting goaltender for our hockey team as a junior. I was actually a starting goaltender on a varsity team freshman year, but that was at a prep school, so that was different. But yeah, good year for football, really good year for hockey. Actually, a pretty decent year for travel lacrosse too. I was a defenseman, and I had the only 2 field knockouts of the year, moving on a slide, coming around the net. I remember it, which is good because I remember it. I don't know that the other player from the opposing team does, but open field hits, man, very different in lacrosse than in any other sport.
You're allowed to cross-check, right?
To an extent, your hands can be a part, but not a tremendous amount. And referees will call it if they see it, but I mean, slashing for sure. But when you're trying to do a slide and the offense, like on attack, they'll try to set a pick. I mean, I would just run right through them. Same thing with on a slide. If they were coming around the cage, just run face first into them. I'm not the most imposing figure, but I was definitely stout at that point. I was probably close to 6 feet tall, definitely 200 plus pounds. That's sizable. So yeah, it's a lot of collision sports, and I do want to specify for any listeners, there's a difference between contact sports and collision sports. Basketball is very much a contact sport. I fully agree that when people make the argument that, basketball is a contact sport, true, it is, because you are making contact continuously. But there's also a subsect of athletics, in particular football, hockey, lacrosse. Those are collision sports. Very different. Not only are you making contact, but you are full force colliding with people. And on the ice, I mean, you're going 20 miles per hour. Like, that's a heavy collision.
Which is mass times acceleration is your force. So lighter guys can make a harder fucking hit than in football.
And especially if you have that low center of gravity, there is a particular defenseman. It was my junior year in hockey. He was a senior at our school. He was actually a Marine, DJ.
Okay.
He would upend people. He was 5'7", maybe 5'8", but he was 175, 180 pounds of just density. And that kid could fly. And his low center of gravity, he would hip check or he would just skate through and just level people. Absolutely level. It was awesome. Awesome. Some of the most violent collisions I've seen. It's great.
Nice.
We had a guy on my college team, similar build, the old school like hip check. Someone would try to get by going on the wing, and he would just drive that hip skating backwards and just upend them. Really like classic old school hit. Really cool to see.
Canadian or American?
Long Islander, actually.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. Very, very, very physical player. So cool to see. But that love of violence of action, if you will, led to kind of where we are now. Every once in a while, I'll still skate and jump out in a bar league game or something like that, or a pickup. Up until this last year, still playing. And this is an oxymoron, much like military intelligence, but the oxymoron is full contact flag football. It's 8 versus 8 in an adult league. And from the line of scrimmage, it is full contact. No pads, no helmets, but no tackling. So you have to, the quote-unquote tackle is made by pulling the flag, but you can downfield block, you can open field block, and I was playing nose tackle the last like 4 or 5 years. I've very much grown into the man body, if you will, and that's somewhere down the line on our list of things to talk about, the difference between man strength, man body versus adolescent into young adult development. And I had this conversation with my fighters the other day, and we'll dive into that. But full force of action, as soon as that ball is snapped, like we can live block. And as a nose tackle, trying to run through the center and the guard tackle, whatever, because you're 3 offensive linemen versus 3 defensive linemen. It's just awesome. So full speed, full contact. And now, as I alluded to, my fitness journey, my fitness truth, if you will, has led me to be a combat sports coach between boxing, kickboxing, Muay Thai, and some grappling. We have a gym right here in town, right downtown. We call it the Dungeon. Where during COVID we had our own facility, and we let the lease lapse, and we're now leasing a different place that's a little bit more centrally located. And it's like a 2,200 square foot basement of an old building, and we're making do, but we have a number of up and coming fighters in the boxing world. We're going into a Golden Gloves tournament actually in the next couple weeks, which is really cool. And then we have a number of fighters who are in the amateur ranks right now in Western New York for Muay Thai and K1 style kickboxing. We have a couple individuals who want to make the transition and make their debut in full out mixed martial arts, which is really cool. So that's a hobby that I still maintain. Full spar once a week, every Tuesday night, which is awesome because that's a very conveniently located day and time during the work week. Tuesdays are just the worst day of the week. I don't know why that is, but the last like 10 years, I don't know if you have anything similar, but
yeah, I've been saying that for about longer than 10 years, that Tuesday is the worst day of the week, because Monday you're just like, fuck, and just getting everything ready, and then like you're actually doing the crap.
Well, that's the thing. Like, you can mentally prepare yourself for a Monday. Everyone can. You can do that on a Sunday night. Like, I got to go to work. All right. But then Tuesday, like, the novelty of Monday is worn off. You're not in the middle of the week like Wednesday. It's not Friday Eve like Thursday. And it's not the cusp of the weekend like Friday. Tuesday is just a barren wasteland.
But you still get to say it's Taco Tuesday.
Silver lining.
That is the silver lining.
Silver lining. If you have a good taco place, or if you can yourself cook good tacos, which you can.
I can, but a lot of the times on Tuesdays, I'm not in a place where I can cook because I'm in a hotel room. So it's like, what do we got around here for tacos?
You find any good trucks or any good places?
Up where I'm working right now, I haven't really looked, and it's February, so there's nothing really out food
Fair
truck
enough,
wise.
food trucks, yeah.
I have taken a look around, and there's some decent Mediterranean places. It looks like pizza.
Can you consider something wrapped in a pita as a taco?
Oh, shawarma, I would definitely say so. Definitely even a gyro.
Interesting.
Oh yeah, gyro, the Mediterranean street taco. Come on.
Do you prefer the lamb or the beef?
Depends on the day and if they're making it on the spit thing or if it's like that pre-made shaved stuff that kind of similarly looks like the pre-made like Philly cheesesteak slices.
Yeah.
Like if it's those, like I don't know if it really matters, but if it's on that spit and it's spinning and they're like cutting it off and it looks like strips of a triangle, like a Toblerone bar of meat, that just saying that it actually just made me kind of happy. A Toblerone bar of meat. Then they're
That might be that's a new catchphrase. That's gonna take on somewhere. I'm not certain where.
I don't know yet. I'm gonna start it. I'm like, oh yeah, like a Toblerone of meat.
You should trademark that.
I should figure that one out. And then they put that on the flatbread with the onion, tomato, lettuce, and tzatziki, and just up. You give me that, I am getting the at least two of them, and I'm probably gonna fall asleep afterwards because it's like Christmas for me, but it's Thursday or whatever it is.
Yeah, but it's Tuesday.
Thanksgiving on a Tuesday, like yeah.
The Mediterranean Thanksgiving on a Tuesday.
Oh yeah, get you 2 euros and just fucking have a nap afterwards.
Call it a day. I dig it.
Oh yeah, that's probably why they have like the Spanish style siesta at lunch too, probably. I'm pretty sure that's a Greek thing also, if not Mediterranean, because most of it's to get out of the heat of the middle of the day, which is why they do the big meal with the family then.
Absolutely.
I'm totally down for that. I'm like, why couldn't we get that party boat?
We missed that party boat.
Fucking England. Shitty weather. We're like, oh, let's work all day.
And here we are. Brutal. Anyway.
At the same time, we got the Second Amendment.
We do have that. Well, a republic if you can keep it.
Very true. But we were talking about fitness, and we went hard left turn.
Well, we were talking about right tacos and fitting tacos and fitting this taco in your mouth.
I'm into fitness. Fitness taco in my mouth. Fitting all the food in my mouth. So sports, science, energy, electrolytes, kickboxing.
Yeah, that's been the craze lately, and yeah, it's really cool. We do have some amateur title fights actually lined up about 2 months from now. Really looking forward to that. So, being on this side, like now, as we rapidly approach 40, the body's on. I wouldn't say the decline. I don't want to say that just yet, but
maintenance mode.
Maintenance, yeah, and that's unfortunately the reality. Like with both of our professions, we're on our feet a majority of the day, and when we're not on our feet, what we're doing is mentally taxing. And by the end of a day, out the door at 6:30, back in the door 7, 8, 9 o'clock at night, depending on the day. Sometimes, like, don't get me wrong, sometimes it's 5, and that's great. But even on those days, it's just how much effort can we really put in? So it's much more maintenance, and that's not all bad. It's not all good. It's definitely not all good because, especially at this age, like we're predisposed to the old atrophy, and it's hard. It's hard. Anyone listening that's in a similar position, like that struggle is very real. So it's finding the motivation, the dedication, having a training partner, huge.
Good training partners are, yeah.
I mean, worth their weight. Whether it's a spouse, a significant other, friend, whatever. Or you remember the movie Heavyweights?
Yes.
Lars, the guy that would just yell out on the dock.
Oh yeah.
So he used to yell "buddy" for the buddy swim.
Mm-hmm.
What if you have someone who's a buddy who keeps you accountable? An accountability.
Ooh, I like that.
do like that.
Accountability buddy, kind of like what we do from each other from afar.
From afar. So,
because I travel for work,
and I'm very stationary. So, having even someone just like, doesn't matter if they're on the other side of the continent, you can literally text and be like, hey, what maintenance did you do today? Hey, what kind of effort did you put in today? Hey, do you need like a rehab day or a stretching day or I just want to eat some fucking pizza day? What do you need? That's your accountability buddy.
Yeah.
So we definitely have those. Definitely have those. And Steve and I do, to a pretty decent extent, do that for each other.
Yep.
Yeah, so it doesn't matter who it is. You just need someone or multiple. It's even better in like the pack mentality. And that's something that we very much have at our gym, especially when we're all in that training mode. Like right now we are in full spin up training mode. So everyone needs to be eating clean, hydrating, watching their weight, making sure that any bumps, bruises, or lingering hurts are taken care of. Making sure that the hurts don't turn into injuries, because you can. I'm certain that you've heard this, whether it was a coach or a friend or whatever. You can play and you can fight hurt. You can totally do that. You cannot and should not play or fight injured. Big difference. Big difference.
Mm-hmm.
So, for us that are seasoned,
hurts happen. Injuries are avoidable in training.
Agreed. And if you're not taking care of the little hurts, they're going to subsequently lead to an injury. And an injury, like you're talking 4, 5, 6 months out of training, what then is going to happen? Atrophy, poor nutrition, a sedentary lifestyle. Like, what are you going to turn into? So being actively maintaining has to be the goal.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm preaching to the choir, and I'm also probably not even listening to my own advice half of the time, but I digress.
The thought's there.
The thought is there,
but the intention behind it means something.
Yeah.
You also know what you need to do. We just got to get you a little more consistent.
I would say. Absolutely. And that goes, there's a whole series of things that have to go into that. You have to be mentally focused to do that. You have to be nutritionally focused to do that. You have to be so stubborn with yourself, and you have to hold yourself accountable. And like, again, it's much easier said than done. And like, I'm not even following my own advice this week. Like this week, I've been very, very lax. Had a good training night on Tuesday, got a little bit of motion and a little bit of movement Thursday, Friday. Had a heavy training weekend last weekend. You and I got a good effort in.
Oh, yeah, we did.
And then I was on the ice for 2 hours. Like, I most certainly earned my calories that day. But, are you intentional with it? Is it 4 or 5, even 6 days a week? It doesn't have to be, a half marathon every other day. It doesn't need to be that. It just needs to be something. Something.
So I had that heavy training day last weekend with you. Then I went climbing twice. After the second climbing day, which was Wednesday, I had a heavy squat day, and I did some other push movements, and I'm like, oh, I ate so much food after that. And Thursday, I'm like, crap, I wasn't ready for that. So I'm like getting in and out of a skid steer at work, going,
You got those fast and slow twitch muscles both screaming at you.
Oh yeah, and then I was like, oh crap, I'm just doing a yoga today, and that was it.
But that's a very intentional. It's a very intentional piece of maintenance, and most studies will show like you cannot empty your gas tank 5 full days a week completely. You can certainly empty some of it or even a majority of it, but you cannot go to excess and go to failure all of those days. Just can't do it. It's futile to do so. Like, you're not going to get your incremental gains. You're not going to, you might see some really good numbers that day. Like, you might even hit a PR, but are you truly setting yourself up for doing it again and again and again? And
I would answer no.
I would argue no. And I think that most certified nutritionists or certified personal trainers would agree. I mean, you have to incrementally do that.
Mm-hmm.
But just a theory at this point. So
took a year and a half off of things while you were adjusting to life in the Air Force.
yeah.
Tell me about getting back into weightlifting and tell me about what that was like in the Air Force, because I know when I just rediscovered it in the Marine Corps, it was like, wait, what? Like it was like a different world. Like you just exposed to different people and
For sure.
more new things and better training ideas and stuff like that. So lead into that, bro.
Absolutely. So a lot of that actually was reawakened on deployment. We were deployed to Qatar in 2006 in support of operations both enduring and Iraqi freedom. And so where we were, like we were right on the Gulf, on the border of Saudi, and we were there. We were there January until almost June. So we went from pretty cold to just burning hot. Like when we left, it was 120, 125 degrees. Midday. It was just brutally hot. And I'm not going to lie, that actually helped, especially with getting the water cycle in. Water intake had to be just to the limit because you're sweating so much, and that really put an emphasis on that. But the shift that I was on, we were working what they called 2 12-hour splits. And
12 on, 12 off. I know it well.
Absolutely. So, and we were doing that 6 days a week with one recovery day, if you will. But we all know that that's not how that goes. A 12-hour shift is, you're on the line, whether you're pulling alert or you're doing heavy maintenance or, doing quick turns or whatever. It's mission dependent. So realistically, we would be up at like 9:30 p.m., 21:30, and hit chow, grab a shower, get ready to process, and like we'd run formation and process to the other side of the compound, and like we'd be on the spot, yes, by 23, right? So we'd work all the way through the night, and more often than not, especially during that time, like there was a heavy uptick of troops in contact in the middle of the night, like any SF raid that was going on, because in particular, that time of year, 2 major operations were ongoing, Fallujah 2, and then towards the end of our rotation, a lot of the cave raids in Afghanistan, specifically on the Pakistan border, we helped kick off, and we were the first 15 unit to ever do this. We kicked off something called Operation Mountain Lion. We were dropping 2,000-pound munitions, laser-guided munitions into cave entries and just decimating mountains that were weapons caches or launching points or muster points. So constant rotation of turning jets, throwing up munitions, pulling alert, troops in contact, just constant pace. And what was nice was if you had like a slower shift, we had a pretty nice fitness layout on the inside of the compound, and I was so uncomfortable in my body, just so uncomfortable. I was close to 250 pounds, and like if you look at me now, you would kind of like really have to scrutinize me, like where were you carrying 250 pounds? I mean, I'm 6'1".
Badass.
Yeah, and that good. And those things called love handles, like, good Lord, was I a freaking chubby bastard. Yeah, you're spot on though. It was definitely in the butt. But I very much dedicated myself to not overeating, getting on this thing called the treadmill, figuring out that lifting weights is actually a good thing for reducing your body fat percentage.
Yep.
And so 7 days a week, even on my off day, or even if we had to pull, a series of alert, like there was one point we worked, 21, 23 days in a row, didn't matter. Get off work. And the other side of this, the other side of the fitness journey is the mental fitness of it. Like, that is a stress release. And do you remember, like, you were a wrestler, you played football. Do you remember in the middle of a play or in the middle of grappling, like, what does your brain do?
It's just kind of trying to figure out the next thing to do, but not remember how to do it and just do it.
So you're on a different plane.
Moderately, I'd say the flow state. And so a lot of it is trying to do the reactionary things and the drills you've practiced.
Correct. The other side of it is
smiling.
Do you think of your stressors of your day? Do you think of the minutia of your day in the midst of something like that?
No, I'm thinking about getting through, and in wrestling, trying not to choke on the breathing pattern.
Right. You're literally focused in that moment. It's the same thing with, like, you and I just getting our reps in with deadlift.
Mm-hmm.
If you think of, oh man, did I pay this bill? Or did I forget to do this for my kid for school or whatever? Like, you're not going to succeed on that movement. You're not going to succeed on what it is that you're doing.
That's why I like rock climbing so much.
Yes. It's 4D chess. It's the same thing with fighting. Like, in the midst of sparring, if I'm worried about, oh, did I meet this deadline for this project that I have to do at work? I'm going to get literally kicked in the face. So you have to be in that moment. But what that does is it allows your brain to detach. That's that mental aspect of, like, you only can focus on that thing. And on deployment, the stressors of constantly being mentally engaged, because you're moving around live munitions, you're moving around different flight surfaces that, if you're not paying attention, if they're moving, they're moving at 3,200 PSI and they weigh literal tons. They're going to hit you and you're not going to get back up. Like, you're constantly.
Don't forget about the intake, which on your bird is low.
2. And the intakes themselves are filled with pitot tubes, little skewers, right? Same thing with the actual engine itself. There are 13 stages.
Sorry, did you say pitot?
P-I-T-O-T. Pitot.
Pedo.
No.
Pedo tubes.
Pitot. Like tater tot.
Oh, I know what you're saying, but you're saying it wrong. It's pronounced pedo.
We can use your mini rock, paper, scissors hands and we can duel this out.
Oh my God. You're
welcome.
Fuck yes.
We digress once again. Anyway, if you're not paying attention, if you're not actively engaged, like, either you or someone around you is going to get jacked up. And if you don't have a healthy way to release that, which, on home station, the healthy way to release that is with
video games and Mountain Dew.
And at that time, it was a lot of Sam Adams and a lot of Stouffer's macaroni and cheese.
Yeah, for me, it was Miller Lite.
Not bad.
Yeah.
Not bad. I prefer the Busch Light, but which is weird because I have such a profound love of craft beers and, like, a good IPA or a good porter, a nice stout, and a good whiskey. But, like, man, oh man, Busch lattes, they just flow.
I mean,
anyway.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that was my rekindling of, hey, chubby, maybe don't be so fat. Maybe do something to extend your lifespan. And the other side of it is and was, I had a couple guys in my unit who were amateur Muay Thai kickboxers.
Nice.
And
now, were these peer group or
so
your NCOs?
No, one was an NCO. When I met him, when I got to the unit, I was an E3, he was an E4 with a line to E5. So he was not yet an NCO, but he was super, super great dude. Phenomenal athlete. 6'3", 220, just, he was totally in his prime. He was a double black belt in Taekwondo and traditional jiu-jitsu.
Oh, nice. The Japanese one?
Yes.
Cool.
And this is what, 2004?
Yes.
Yeah, so 2004. His name was Justin. Super great guy. Super down to earth. He was from northern Mississippi. So he's a country boy, down to earth, super great guy, but had just an unrelenting work ethic in the gym. Unrelenting.
Farm boy?
No, just a country boy.
Okay.
But just, he would not be outworked. And like his striking, again, at 6'3", 220, like long, lean, fast, accurate. And his Taekwondo skills they're just superior. His kicks were just different. And it's funny that now in my gym, I have another black belt in Taekwondo, and his name is Justin. Much smaller, but kicks just through the roof. It's ridiculous. So I was moving around on deployment with Justin. He was getting himself ready for an open competition in, I want to say it was early summer, like on our return for Taekwondo. So he was powerlifting. His cardio training was just insane. And I watched that. I'm like, man, like, dude looks phenomenal. He's always in a good mood. He has such a positive attitude, and like, he just goes, and he doesn't stop. He just doesn't stop. And he showed me some of the traditional basics, if you will, of Taekwondo. And like, not gonna lie, it's very much not my style. I love to kick. I like to knee. I like all that, but the point system, the traditional fighting way, like, just wasn't my flavor. And that's no disrespect.
That's fine.
Yeah, I mean, if you have someone who has that karate background or has the traditional Taekwondo background, if they're open and if they're moldable to like modern combat sports, they're going to be a phenomenal fighter. I can back that up because my training partner at the gym comes from that traditional karate background, but you meld it with like Hapkido and Muay Thai and Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and all of a sudden you have a very dangerous person who doesn't look at things in a traditional way. It's like a blended vision. Really cool. So Justin was a hard-hitting dude, and I was working with him a little bit, and I had another guy from California, Miguel, and he was a phenomenal traditional Muay Thai fighter. And on so many steroids, it was ridiculous. Dude came to the unit like just a few months before I did at like 135, maybe 140 pounds. Came back off of deployment at 240. Huge, massive. Just like striations with veins and just roid rage, man. Like, that guy got in some trouble too.
Whew.
Got in some, like, he was almost sent to the brig. Like, he, if I remember correctly, he lost a stripe and had to be physically removed from a clinic because he punched a wall when someone told him something he didn't want to hear, and literally shattered his hand. And then the doctor was like, look at you, like, what are you taking? And he was just like so indignant about that statement from the doctor that he had to be restrained and literally carried out. But another digression. But his foundation and his foundation was traditional Muay Thai, and a phenomenal striker. And he wanted to get hit with 4-ounce gloves. He didn't want to train with 12s, 14s, 16s. Mm-hmm. He wanted to be in the UFC. Like, and that was in the
early days.
Right? Like
when the Ultimate Fighter first came out.
Precisely. Like, I'm so glad you said that. That's literally, like, that was his goal. It was his goal to...
Oh, that's season 1 of the Ultimate Fighter? We were in Nellis. Like, at the finale. Because we were doing desert test and eval for the Osprey.
Okay.
And so we were in Nellis. I was at Nellis Air Force Base watching that finale with Forrest Griffin and Stephen Bonner.
Yes.
And then I was like, damn, that was fucking awesome. And that was just like 15 minutes away. And that was obviously on a weekend. So like everyone comes back from their night out on town because, we're in Vegas, we're getting per diem, so it's extra money.
Extra crayons.
Fuck yeah, extra crayons. And like everyone's there, oh my God, the strip was fucking wild after that fight. And they're like, a few dudes were like, yeah, I fucking had a beer with Stefan Bonner afterwards. I'm like, that's cool as shit. And I just sat here like a fucking dork.
Did you hear he just went bankrupt?
I heard Stefan Bonner died.
Oh, you're right. He did die.
Yeah.
I think he OD'd.
I think so too.
That's
I'm not sure, but like, yeah.
Like
but that was
century.
the all-time greatest fight I've ever seen. I'm like, because it's just two dudes going for a contract.
Was it $100,000 contract at the time?
Think so.
Yeah, I think that's right. Well, anyway,
yeah.
So that spurred me into like, hey, look at the physicality, look at the mentality. Don't didn't necessarily copy and paste the ridiculous steroid antics, but like I found something there. I found something within my own physical nature, my own mental nature, and I was halfway decent at it. Not until I lost a bunch of weight because I was chubby, but I came back off of deployment. I went there. I think the heaviest I stepped on the scale was 247, and I came back off rotation at 204, and I felt good, like I felt healthy again, and I felt like I could move, I could run, I could ruck, I could move weights if I needed to. I was still physically strong, and I did not really stop there. Like my enlistment ended the following summer in 2007, and I started my transition from active duty to the National Guard, and that desire to be on a team. And this is not a slight, and I don't want it to come across. It's going to, regardless, but I don't want it to be this way. Leaving my unit was hard because, I mean,
right.
You still have best friends. Like, I still have best friends. Moving to the National Guard, like, very different pace. The ops tempo from literally the second or the first most active F-15 unit on the planet to an inactive guard unit that does like 5 sorties a weekend once a month was really, really challenging.
Was that on a different bird too?
That was 130 at the time, and I didn't want anything to do with the maintenance.
Right.
So I had enrolled in our local college, and I began to explore the political science side of things and look at the history side of things. I had contemplated being an attorney, and I actually ended up in the education pipeline. And so it was a whole mix of just everything. Super slow ops tempo. I would show up once a month and would go sit in a back office, but I had access to the gym. And at that gym, I found dudes who, once again, were just hard-hitting, like Muay Thai guys, kickboxers.
Right.
And I was just like, you know what, dude? Like, it's time. It's time that I start ramping up my training. And I did. And I was training with these guys, and, like, one of them, he's actually still in the unit. I see him once every, like, 3 years. He had spent, like, 2 months in Thailand and was instructed by, like, real deal, legit crews, and just brought so much. And this is the thing. Like, you can talk to professional athletes, you can talk to pro fighters, pro hockey players, pro football players. Not all of them are cerebral, and not all of them can coach. Just because you can do doesn't mean you can teach. So, but he was extremely intelligent with his training and with his striking and with how he broke it down and analyzed it. And he translated that so well. He was a phenomenal teacher. And I was moving with those guys for on and off for like the better part of 4 years, and never been hit and kicked harder in my life, ever. But it really ramped that side up for me. But I was also playing a varsity sport in college now. I had walked on to a Division III college hockey team as a goalie, and
made it.
And I made it. I was having this conversation actually last night. Like, I wasn't on the ice for 4 consecutive years. I didn't play any hockey. None. Zero hockey. No skating, no stretching, no pucks, no velocity, nothing for 4 years. And I still walked on and like could somewhat hang. Like I was by no means what I was in high school leading up to it, but you know, I still had it.
And we should also probably note you were not the starter.
I was not. And
okay.
I will fully own that. But
well, I think everyone listening should know.
yeah, absolutely. Could I have been? Maybe. I would have needed like one more real development year to get everything back the way that it was before, and to up my flexibility, up my mobility, and just get that sheer volume of shots on goal, like to get me recalibrated back in. I didn't have that, and like really at that point, you know, I was 24, about to turn 25. I'd already graduated with my bachelor's degree. I graduated with my bachelor's in 2.5 years. Like I was full speed into getting into teaching, and that's actually when I started coaching football at our high school.
Woo!
And that year, we won a Far West Regional Championship.
Nice.
And so, staying in the college world of, you know, trying to play college sports and, you know, try to make a name in Division III, like there was no point, and I was good with that. I'm very much at peace with that, because that's what led us essentially here.
Yes.
But that's another lesson on the fitness journey, and that's something that now, you know, again for the listeners who are on the edge of their seats waiting for the next drop of knowledge. My profession is in education, and I'm actually an administrator. I'm a high school principal, and I try to up the level of everyone around me, whether it's my faculty, my staff, my students, their parents, like having very real conversations, because if any or many of you have noticed, like society has kind of lost its grip on reality, and that's a different rabbit hole, man. And like, we don't have single malt scotch in front of us, and we're not going to do that. But I say all that to say, if you are a high school athlete and you think that you have an opportunity to go to the next level, and if you're from a small town and you're the best athlete there, it doesn't matter. You don't understand what it takes to go to the next level. You just don't. Let's take football. If you're going to be a college football player, even at the junior college level, those are feeder programs that have legitimate Division I athletic talent embedded in them. Like, that's a truth.
Mm-hmm.
There are legitimate Division I athletes, even at our local ECC. There are legitimate Division I caliber athletes right there. The difference is they have piss poor attitudes. They don't succeed in the classroom. They refuse to follow rules and norms. And they don't put in the amount of work that it takes to be a true pro. And that's a line that, you know, I attempt to say even to my small town kids and their parents, like, you might have a real gift for your athletic ability. That might be very true. But do you put in the work 6 days a week? Are you in the weight room 6 days a week? Are you academically engaged 6 days a week? Are you putting in extra effort with your cardio, with your physio, with your recovery, with your nutrition? Do you have a coachable attitude? And if the answer to any of those is even maybe, like, what are we talking about? Because you won't make it.
And then there's film study on top of that too, and like researching. I want to say the enemy because it's the easy word to think of at the moment, but the opposition. Like, yeah, you have to like do a lot of research on all that too, not just go,
yeah,
I'm just going to go out there and play and see what happens.
Absolutely.
Like, no, that's how I lift weights now that I'm almost 40.
Dude, you and I literally do the same thing for each other in the basement. Like,
Yeah.
if we're going after a PR or if we're going after a goal, like if I'm doing a movement, I've videoed you on deadlift or squats multiple times. You've done the same. And like we've literally gone back and analyzed, are you using proper form? Are you using violence of action? Are you properly hydrated?
Yeah. What did you tell me last week? It was like, your hips looked weird on that lift. I'm
Yes.
like, yeah, it felt weird. He's like, yeah, like you were shifted to one side. I'm like, oh, that's not good. I'm done.
So you recalibrate.
Yep.
And you figure it out, but you do that through being meticulous with everything that you do. And again, like it's easy for me to say on a podcast, like I'm sitting here in our gym and like we're having this conversation. Am I properly hydrated right now?
I'm not.
Neither am I. Did I have the proper nutrients this morning to truly get after it? No, because I went to a pancake breakfast and I've had 5 cups of coffee.
I've had 2 cups of coffee and half a glass of water.
I have had a glass of water too, but like all of these things are easier said than done. But at the same point, like I already am a working professional. I am a professional.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just not a professional athlete. Now, I'm coaching.
True.
Right. I have my profession. On the side, I'm coaching potential future professional athletes. And I'm telling them all the same things that I'm saying here and now. What are you doing to set yourself apart? And if you're not doing those things, what's the point? You're either going to go full send and do it, or you're playing a game for fun. What's the point? If you want to have fun, cool, awesome. Do you want to step into a cage and get kicked right in the teeth
For fun?
Just for fun. I mean, don't get me wrong, like there's definitely an element of fun.
Well, yeah.
They're absolutely like getting hit and knowing that you can stand there and take a kick or a punch or a knee to anywhere on your body or head and like be able to smile through it. There's something to be said about that.
Well, not only that, but adrenaline is fun. I don't care what anyone says.
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely.
Why do people like doing adrenaline sports? I'm like, because it's fucking awesome.
Because adrenaline. Like,
Yeah.
if you ever had that ride, like, you know.
Have you experienced an adrenaline dump where you're like, oh shit, and then you're like, I reacted based off of prior knowledge of doing things, and it fucking worked out, and I smiled like a bastard. It's just like,
Right.
holy crap.
Right. And it all reverts back to, like, you fall back on your worst training day.
Mm-hmm.
Like, your body and your brain revert back to your very worst training day. So,
Yes.
are you making your worst training day get better? And is that a goal? Did you even know that should be a goal?
I've heard it said before that you don't rise to the occasion, you fall to the level of your training.
And I would argue, and I would suggest that you fall back to your worst training day ever. Now, are there exceptions to that? Absolutely. Because if foundationally you are, again, if you are exceedingly good at something, naturally gifted at something, you're going to fall back to that natural state.
I'm probably not going to worry about the naturally talented guy. I'm going to worry about the guy that's not naturally talented that works way fucking harder to be as good as the naturally talented guy.
Absolutely. And like, again, this goes back to even the enhanced athletes. Mm-hmm. Like Seth Feroce said it beautifully. That guy might be on gear. Absolutely. That guy might be on 5 different types of gear. And that's why he looks the way that he does. That's why he moves the way that he does. And that's why he lifts as much as he does. The difference is you could run those same 5 pieces of gear and you're not going to look and act like him because he will outwork you 6 fucking days a week. He will put you to shame every single day that he's in that weight room. You could run everything the exact same nutrition, same hydration, and same supplements. Does not matter. That person is going to outwork you. They will outclass you. And that's something that I constantly feed my athletes in my gym. What are you doing here and now that's going to set you apart from your opponent? And if you're not doing that extra, like, you're wasting your own time. Because it's not my time. Like, I still enjoy doing this.
Right.
You know, like, I literally do this as a hobby. So if it's an actual goal that you're setting, are you outworking everyone else? And if you're not, the question is why? Are you unable or are you unwilling? Really comes down to those two things.
Yeah.
Neither one are great, by the way.
Oh, no.
But one's workable and the other one's we have to maybe reassess.
Unwilling is not a fun one to work with because that's the one that nobody wants to work with. And then that's definitely the, what the fuck are you doing here?
Yeah.
Unable, we can get you better. I won't say I think me or anyone else could make you able, but we could make you 1% better today, 1% better tomorrow, put you in a better position.
Absolutely. And incrementally, even 1% of 1% begins to add up and it begins to equate to things.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll take
Have you ever like pulled out a calculator and like whatever your starting number is, 50 or 100 or whatever, and then multiply it by 1.01, which is 1%. And then you just keep pressing the button, just press the button and count how many times it takes to get to like whatever number you want to get it to. It's like, it's a fun game to play. I do it at work randomly where I'm just like, I wonder how many times. Like if you start with 1,000 and you do it at 1.2, like multiply by 1.2, you can get to 1,000,000 in like 13 or 15 tries.
Right.
It's like, fuck, it's awesome.
Right. It's the same with like trying to add musculature to your physique or reduce your body fat percentage. Like, you don't have to do it all at once. Like,
you're not going to get that meteoric of a rise though with musculature, physique. Like that's a slow build.
Has to be. It's the same thing with incremental weight loss. Like,
oh yeah. Yeah. Or even trying to like increase your deadlift from 200 to 300 or 3 to 4, 4 to 5. Like you're talking like, this is a slow build. If you put on 5 pounds on that bar a week consistently, you are fucking phenomenal.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Couldn't agree more. Couldn't agree more. It's good.
Oh, fuck yeah, it is.
I like this theme.
Yeah. So, you went into the Air Force. Why the Air Force? Because you are 6'2", 225, built beautifully, strong fucking, great looking fucking dude. And
much obliged.
I've said it before, I'll say it again. People would have thrown underwear at you, men and women, if you were in dress blues, Marine Corps dress blues.
The reality is, when we enlisted, my parents wouldn't sign the Marine Corps. They would not sign the Marine Corps paperwork.
Okay.
Again, post 9/11 world.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone's getting rotated, and like, I just wanted to go. I wanted to be wherever. And you had your recruiter. It was over by the movie theater.
Yes.
And I actually met you over there one of the days. And I got the paperwork, talked to the guy. I'm like, dude, this is awesome. This is awesome. And I brought it home. And I had, I'd spoken to all 4 branches at that time. I wanted nothing to do with the Navy. I don't want to be on a ship for 6, 8, 10 months at a time. I don't want to do it. I had toured. You ever been to the Buffalo Naval Yard?
Yes, because my sister was there.
Okay. You ever walk on those vessels?
The little ships?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So how comfortable are those?
Not very comfortable. I've also been on an LHD for 2 weeks, which is the smaller aircraft carriers, the amphibious ones.
How comfortable was that?
I didn't enjoy it.
Right.
It was the worst 2 weeks in Marines.
Right. So like,
it's actually the 2 weeks that made me go, yeah, I don't think this is right for me. Because of not the sleeping portion, but working on the deck of a carrier at night. Not fun. And it was relatively calm waters.
Sketchy?
I was on the tail of an osprey.
Yep.
Past the safety nets.
Oh, good.
Oh, yeah. I was doing something really dumb, too. Like, it was not, like, a hard task. Like, I think I was, like, sealing a panel up on the tail for the rudder actuator. Like I was not doing anything hard, and I was just like, oh crap.
Not for you.
Nope. I'm like,
So,
yeah.
I mean,
And like I had a safety harness and everything.
didn't matter.
Didn't matter. I'm just like looking down. I'm just like, I don't see the water, but I can hear it. And I roughly know how high it is because I was smoking a cigarette on the catwalks earlier. Because that's where you smoke a cigarette on the boat, is out on the catwalks underneath the flight deck. And that's during the day is where you're allowed to smoke. At night, you have to go all the way down to the bottom to have a cigarette inside. Because you can, obviously, tactically, like you can see a cigarette from 2 miles away.
Yep.
Like, yep. So they don't want people out at night smoking cigarettes or falling overboard.
Fair enough. So that's why no Navy.
Yeah.
Army, no. Just their mentality didn't speak to me. I wanted to be around aircraft. Like, I wanted to be on an aircraft. And I was fascinated. With fighter jets. And
as you very well should be. They're awesome.
And so I ended up doing exactly that. I ended up working on a really cool airframe. But yeah, the long and the short of it was my family was not super keen on me ending up infantry or something in the meat grinder. And like, okay, fair enough to a point. Yeah, they wouldn't sign the paperwork. My dad's like, yeah, man, find something different. And again, I was only 17 at the time, and like I very much wanted my future post high school to be like signed, sealed, delivered. Like I had enlisted in November of our senior year.
Yeah, it was October.
Yeah, I was right after. I didn't want to do the college exploration or any of that. Like I wasn't going to be good at it right then and there. So yeah, like many many people find my mentality to be very very extra for being prior active duty Air Force. But again, like our unit was the most active fighter unit at one point literally in the world when I was in that unit. And that breeds an intensity unto itself. Like it's just that.
Well, I would say fighter units, because like we have the 18s and AH-1, not the Hueys, AH-1 Cobras.
Yeah.
So dudes from those unit that I met in the aircraft world, far more squared away because, we also have the Harrier AV-8B. Yeah, dudes from the fighter units, and in the Harrier's case is also an escort. Actually, also AH-1s are escorts for helicopters too. But fighter gunships and fighter aircraft of any sort, like those dudes are squared away because the pilots need them fucking squared away.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Like because you don't have room for error.
Yeah.
You just don't. And we were in at a very unique time, and even active duty Air Force at that point had really had a foundational and fundamental shift on who and what they were. In particular, like because of the places that we knew, well, I didn't know at the time, but our head shed at that point had figured out, like, we were going to go into places where the traditional, Air Force world would not have been well adapted to. Like, what if you have an in-flight emergency, over Balad, Iraq, which, oh wait, we did. So you have to send maintainers to Balad that, they call it Mortaritaville. Like, you need to be able to render aid, or you need to be able to, like, legitimately, what if you have to return fire? Like, and I was that guy who, took every single training opportunity. Like, our unit went through urban combat. We went through a different school of marksmanship. We went through tactical unit training. I had gone through convoy training. I was actually slotted to go convoy in 2005, right before our spin up, before my orders got pulled. So like I got to go and learn from security forces, like how to drive in column and how to, get out of a vehicle and engage, hostile forces. Like, so it was very different, very different. And again, I said this phrase last night. It was a very non-traditional, traditional career field in the Air Force. Like, there was nothing about it that was traditional, and I'm thankful for that, because it gave me, a love for tactics, a love for different weapons platforms, and like I got to do things that most people who would look and be like, oh well, you're just a pussy airman. Like, no, dude, like we did close quarters combat. Like we did things on a different level where, are we real pipe hitters? Like, no, like let's be real. Let's have a real conversation. But if shit hit the fan, would you take me in a gunfight?
Oh, fuck yeah.
Absolutely. Because I know how to shoot, I know how to move, I know how to communicate. And I went through, one of the most fun trainings I went through was post-attack reconnaissance. And I actually went through the instructor school for that and taught post-attack reconnaissance for 3 years in the Guard. It's where you walk around looking for unexploded ordnance after an attack.
Oh, nice.
So I was on a PAR team, and like that was one of my additional duties. Same thing with TCCC. At that point, it was like buddy care. So like combat life.
And what does TCCC stand for?
So TCCC is for the tactical. You're putting me on the spot. I can't freaking remember the critical care element of it.
Tactical combat critical care, but basically it's someone got injured, taking care of them.
It's a gunshot or shrapnel wound.
Yes.
Like you need to be able to render aid and get them ready for either medevac, or hopefully if you have a unit with a trauma surgeon or a flight surgeon or a corpsman, like they can get to them and actually render aid to the point that they save their life.
Right. So stabilize, get them to a higher level or unit of care.
Correct.
Got it.
So, yeah, that was very different path than most would have thought. But once again, that's what brings us here. That's what got me to where I am. So it's pretty cool.
Fuck yeah, man. Yeah. I would have rather had you in the Marine Corps with me just going, well, this sucks, but at least we suck together. But also, I wouldn't want you working on the Osprey because...
Yeah, no thanks.
It wasn't bad to work on. I just didn't do anything because I literally didn't get deployed because it was non-operational, and then they burnt me out. So all of that stuff, feeding in, you're working in the world of education now. You got way more education by books than I do and magical pieces of paper that say you do, but I get to work outside and I'm far happier.
I have 4 pieces of paper that say that I'm smart.
I have a high school diploma.
You have an associate.
Oh, that's right. I do have I forgot about my associates. My associates of business.
I mean, which unto itself is pretty cool. I don't have that.
Yeah, well, I guess I can do business things. So all this feeds in. And this has helped develop your mindset. And where does this help you arrive at and to help propel people higher, maybe even?
So that's a really good question. And that's something that I hope to exploit in the coming months, years, of perhaps venturing into my own company, or at least in a limited capacity, of doing more coaching. Specifically in the combat sports world, but also in the perhaps in the weight training, get back into the fitness lifestyle type of coaching, and the mindset and mentality coaching. And that's something I literally do 10 hours a day, running a school building. It's constantly putting out little fires and constantly finding ways to light new ones of, getting people to be better today than they were yesterday. And that's really what it boils down to. Whether you're in the fitness lifestyle, the combat sports lifestyle, the collision sports lifestyle, or just trying to make yourself better lifestyle. Like that's something that very much appeals to me, and that's something that I feel like I genuinely need. I need to be a part of. So that's kind of where this is hopefully headed.
Nice.
What are you going to do with it?
What am I going to do with what? Mindset and tenacity?
Yeah.
Right now, I'm just trying to get a bunch of newer coworkers spooled up, and that's kind of like my testing ground for like talking to people. And one of the biggest things I've discovered is like a lot of what we do is like building the fucking sites we do, and a lot of them are just building it by the blueprints and the drawings and stuff we have, but they don't know why. It's like, well, why are we doing this? I'm like, this is what we do in this. And it's just like, hey, how they designed this, we actually don't want it like this. We want to do this. And so we want this, and here's the reasons.
Is there a segue from that mentality and that mindset to you moving more towards like a supervisor's role?
I probably will eventually. I've been making a very good case for it the last few years, but I also haven't really wanted it.
So what shift?
Because they have the golden handcuffs on me, but they're just paying me ridiculous amounts of money to keep doing what I'm doing at a very high level. And what's going to eventually happen is the older generation of the people that I started with 12 years ago, they're going to time out eventually. Like a bunch of them already have.
And so the question, I guess, is who's going to replace them?
I will be an obvious choice for some categories, but not all. Like construction management in the field, like I can have that all day. The project management and dealing with the client, I can talk to them when they come on site and tell them what we're doing and why we're doing it, but I don't want to deal with contracts.
And the actual pieces of paper and the actual negotiations behind them?
Oh, yeah. I don't want to deal with that. I just want to order pipe, put it together, play with electricity, put it into the ground, get in, get out.
How much longer is the body going to support that?
I'm not sure, but I'm going to do that to the best of my ability for the longest as I can. And that's why I do things the way I do, which is keep the body strong, keep the body lean, keep the body limber. So that's weights, occasional endurance work, which is assault bike or running, hiking and running at the same time, rucking, which is, just putting on a backpack and walking, and rock climbing, just because it's fun and a great way to break things up. And one of the things which I actually learned when I was drinking myself out of community college right after the Marine Corps was yoga. I fucking love yoga because it's a structured way to do the stretching, which is the other side of the weightlifting. So you contract the muscle, you need to relax it. It's just like anything else, but you're doing it in a set, structured way.
We need to get you back into combat sports.
Oh, definitely. I grew up doing kung fu, and yes, I do want to get back into it. I grew up wrestling too, so I thought in my head, I'm like, I can go in and combine these two in my head. I don't have any idea what I'm doing trying to combine the two, but I can do the two things separately.
It's a valid take on it. And I definitely have a couple clients, if you will, fighters in the gym who are very good separately and individually. Mm-hmm. I was the exact opposite. Like, I'm not a super great grappler. I'm good. I can certainly hold my own. Mm-hmm. And a lot of that is just from foundational strength. But tactically, I'm not a very cerebral grappler. Like, people see openings and things when you're removed from it. Like, I can do that. I can coach someone through a move. But when I actually myself am grappling, like all I want to do is just squeeze the life out of someone. So I'm not a very cerebral grappler. That's a goal. Kickboxing is very different. Like that's where, especially K1 style or Muay Thai style, if I can incorporate standing grappling and sweeps and like a hip toss while also punching, kicking, kneeing, like that's where it's at. I'm good at that. I'm good at coaching.
Mm-hmm.
I'm very good at analyzing and breaking down structured approaches to dismantling an opponent, and that's something that sets our gym very much apart. Like we train the traditional to break the traditional. So if we have a very traditional opponent coming from another gym that has like a very strong karate or a very strong taekwondo or a very strong Muay Thai traditional background, like we take a very hybrid approach to dismantling and exploiting the weaknesses from each of those disciplines.
Mm-hmm.
And like melding those things together just comes naturally, both in practice and in theory. And that's why I love it's, as you said earlier, it's 4D chess. Like you have to be mentally and physically in sync to make it happen. And the rest of the world just turns off. It's the coolest thing.
Fuck yeah.
It's the coolest thing. Nothing
matters when you're on the wall, or in your case, in a ring.
Well, and like even now as a coach, like we just had a really big event. I think it was 3 weeks ago, and I did the walkout with my fighter, and there's 1,200 people, 1,000 people.
Slayer blaring through the music. I don't know if it was really doing that.
I think it was an Eminem song for the walkout.
That's okay too.
Not bad, but like the craziest things happen. Like as you're getting up to the cage, like people are screaming, cheering, all this stuff, right? Like it's loud, it's crazy, it's chaos in there. And even now as a coach, like all of that goes away. Like it's not tunnel vision and it's not silence, but
tinnitus
might be some of that.
Like, does it sound like that? We're just kind of like quiet, but it's like you hear a noise, but it's like you don't hear the roar.
That's a good analysis, actually. Like you're definitely aware that there's noise and volume around you, but it's almost like indiscernible. You can't hear one thing in particular. And like, so walking up to the cage and like, applying the grease on the fighter and like giving that little pep talk, I don't hear anything else. I don't think about anything else. It's gone. And for those minutes that the rounds are taking, again, you're aware of the noise, you're aware of the volume, but there's nothing else on the mind. You don't worry about anything. You're so laser focused on that one task. And my fighter, and again, something that we do differently, even when we spar, we debrief after every round. Like it's the same thing as like when you and I either share a debrief after a movement or you journal, right?
Yeah. So for everyone listening, I journal how my workout went and how it made me feel and thoughts on it after 99% of them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I've taken that practice and I've put it into speech, and we debrief after every round. Like, what did you learn? Like if I limit them to using only a certain technique or a certain strategy during that 3-minute sparring round, what did you learn about that? What was useful? And tell me what was completely useless about it. Take the useless, throw it away, but take something that you learned and put it in your arsenal.
I will say one thing I have noticed lately, because I send you my workouts and my afterthoughts, is I've been getting a lot out of watching other people in the gym too, and like, just kind of like taking the energy of it and like applying it. Like the one I did the other day where it's like I saw like a younger kid just moving wildly and fucking trying to throw weights on a cable machine that he obviously wasn't ready for. And I'm just like, what the fuck? And then the dude next to me is like doing proper warm-ups, like just the fucking bar, going through all the motions on squats correctly. And I'm just like, fuck yeah. And then he just like loads up. It wasn't an absurd amount. And then he's just like moving it beautifully, did his sets and reps by the book and like on the money and all the stuff. And like he was wearing a shirt that said like Boston College lacrosse team or something like that. I'm just like, fuck yeah, like disciplined as fuck. And like here I am somewhere in the middle, just kind of like feeling like I'm somewhere in there where I'm like, maybe I put on a little more weight than I should have on the bar, but I still did the movements, but I just kind of felt the workout out and I did sets and reps. And I'm just like,
but there's validity in that. And there's 2 points I'm going to make off of that.
Yeah.
Back to a point that you made. You're watching other people do the motion. And in your brain, you're theoretically finding strengths and weaknesses in their movement.
Mm-hmm.
And I've seen, and I've even seen in your debriefs, how you've applied that to a coaching strategy. And that's something that that's a part of that reflection side in the gym where I make them coach each other because you learn.
I was going to ask that.
So we make them coach each other. So the end of Tuesday's rounds, we went for a full hour 45. And the last, I think it was 8 rounds. It was either 8 or 10 rounds. I had each fighter hold mitts for everyone else in the gym. And during those movements and during those rounds, for the whole time, the whole duration of the 3 minutes, they had to call the combos. They had to correct any mistakes that they saw, and they had to give a combination that they thought suited the body style and the techniques that the training partner possesses.
That's beautiful.
And then after, again, it's only a 30-second share out, but like in those 30 seconds, like, hey, I saw you were pivoting wrong. Like maybe put some more weight on that back foot as you pivot through, or transition your balance point to the ball of your foot when you're throwing that kick and stop telegraphing it. I see it coming every single time. So that other fighter then is like, oh, yeah, I didn't really think about that. So we get good at coaching each other. And what that results in is you're critically analyzing your training partner, but then you apply that and you're actually critically analyzing your opponent during a fight. You're then watching.
Well, you're analyzing more and more and more, so you can analyze faster and faster and faster.
Precisely. So your brain is going at a higher speed than your opponent is because you're so used to coaching, correcting, giving advice, and calling combos that now you're so like you can just flow. And that goes back to the second point that I wanted to make. You fall back on your training, right? You're not gonna fall back on anything else. You're gonna see those analytics and you're gonna see those techniques and strategies actually be put into play. And my fighter shared something on the debrief after his fight. It was a 22-second knockout.
Yes.
One, right?
Let me in on this one.
So those were a very brief 22 seconds. It took so much longer to warm up, weigh in, do the promotion, do all the things, do the coach. Like all of that was hours and hours and hours, plus the months of training camp for 22 seconds. But he said something profound. So on the debrief, he got knocked down within the first 3 seconds of the fight. They both threw kicks at the same exact time. But my fighter's a southpaw. And where it landed, he was on the short end of the leverage point. So they both landed their kicks, but he got essentially knocked down just because of leverage. He wasn't hurt, wasn't harmed, didn't lose a point. But he stood up, and because his brain was so focused, he didn't hear the noise, he didn't hear the crowd react, and he himself didn't overreact. He sat in the pocket and threw a fury of hands, threw a beautiful kick, and then went back to a combo. And I'm glad that he did because it ended with an uppercut that put this dude out, right? But he said something profound. He's like, for this fight, this is his third. He's like, for this fight, I just felt different. I felt centered. I felt calm. I felt like my mind and my body were operating as one, rather than my mind being on the promotion and the hype and the crowd and like all the other shit that goes into the fighting game. His mind and his body were focused on one task, not the pictures, not the press, not the Instagram shares, none of that crap. He was just focused on winning and throwing good combinations. And he didn't hear any of the noise for the first time ever. Because his other two fights, he was like, oh man, like I was jittery because I heard the crowd and I heard people yelling and like I heard specific phrases and I heard you calling combos from the corner. This time he didn't hear anything.
Not even you?
I barely had
Well, I guess 22 seconds.
22 seconds, right? Like if we were 2 minutes and 22 seconds into, a first or a second round out of a 3-minute round, like he better hear the combos that I'm calling or the corrections that I'm trying to make from the corner. But we didn't even get to that point because all the rest of it had turned off and he was just laser focused. It's awesome. But that process of making him debrief that and making him share that had a little light bulb moment for him. And he's like, oh, I didn't understand what you were talking about until now. And now I get it. So cool moment.
Mm-hmm.
Cool moment.
Yeah. Yeah. So do you have any closing thoughts?
This was a cool practice. This was a cool process.
Mm-hmm.
And
we'll get to the bottom of something eventually.
But that's the thing. We have lots of space and time.
This is very true.
Lots of space and time. Closing thoughts. I want to see how this process plays out for this training camp. We're in the fight cycle right now. We have about a month and a half, 2 months until we have another fight card. And I myself am training with my fighters and training my body to get back into a better shape and trying to keep my mindset focused on, closing this spring out in a positive way. So closing thoughts are, I want to see how these practices actually come to fruition through the month of April. And maybe we do a recap, you and I.
I'm in.
So that's my closing thought.
All right. And if we have any fighters of yours that we want to get on here, we'll try for that too.
We'll see if we have a couple title runs and maybe do a debrief.
Oh, that'd be great.
It's awesome.
All right, man. Well, I'm looking forward to this, and I'm also looking forward to attending a few of those Saturday morning camps with you.
It's gonna be awesome.
Oh, fuck yeah.
We're gonna grind that shit out.
Yes.
Love it.
Love it.
All right.
All right.
Laters.
Later.